Hi everybody, welcome to Woodlands County Economic Development Committee's meeting Thursday, October 17th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:11. Alrighty, so just with looking at the agenda here, I'd like to ask if there's any additions to the agenda.
Madam Chair, we do have one correction on the minutes, please. If you look at section 3.1 under adoption of minutes, we realized that we did forget to include the conclusion motion for when we came out of the in-committee session, and that was according to our records at 8:12 p.m. Jennifer, I should have asked who had passed that motion. Do you have that?
Shelley.
Shelley?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. So if that's fair, then we will go with Shelley Hittel as being the one that passed the motion. That would be the only amendment to those minutes.
Okay, and I do see that here as 8:14 on my copy that I'm looking at. It was already corrected.
Okay.
If there's no, nothing from administration, I'd move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Awesome. All right, moving right along to the adoption of minutes.
So then with that one amendment, Madam Chair, the minutes would be ready to be adopted as well.
Okay,
Move to adopt minutes.
awesome. Is there any further discussion?
So should that read as amended?
As
Oh,
amended, yes, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so the motion then to adopt the minutes as amended. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thanks. Okay, so moving right along to number 4, our delegation. So I will pass this over to Bert and to introduce Louise.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My pleasure to be sitting next to and to introduce to everyone the president of our White Corton District Chamber of Commerce, Louise Meyer. As you know, the Chamber is a very valuable partner for the county and for our ACDEV committee on many of the different projects that we work on. The Chamber has just recently had its AGM, as well as they're looking at some proposals for next year. And Louise is here to update us on some of those things, as well as to talk a little bit about the Labor Market Partnership Grant and the upcoming events we have for next week for Small Business Week, which we've been able to put together a small working group, as we tend to do in our region, in order to make some great things happen. So with that, I will turn it over to Louise.
Thanks, Bert. And thank you for the invitation to present to you. I think this has been a long time coming. You know, and COVID notwithstanding, but we've not been having the presence with Woodlands County like we should be. So for whatever those reasons are. So I appreciate this opportunity to be here and to give you a bit of an update. So I'll just do a bit of a review of last year, because we had some pretty significant milestones that we met and that are, to me, speaks to the not just the validity but the strength of the chamber and its value to the business community. So so we had it last year, of course, was our October 23, and I'll just sort of do it chronologically here. Our trunk or treat. We had 30 trunks. We averaged 1,200 children. I don't know if any of you attended that. Crazy busy. It was just, and so, you know, if you add 2 parents to every one of those 1,200 kids, there was a lot of people in downtown. The weather was fantastic. It was a great event. November saw the return of I'm Dreaming of White Court Christmas. So when we talk about economic impact locally, so some of our members stood up and promoted this event. It wasn't executive members, it was other members that did this. Gail Marbuquette was one of them. And they had 35 participating retailers. They printed 20,000 stamps, which translated to something in the realms of $2.5 million of local shopping. That's pretty significant. So rather than the Amazon packages coming to the door. And that's what the whole idea was behind it. Hopefully this year it'll be just as successful. We hosted our Santa Claus Parade in November. Again, one of the most beautiful evenings to be outside. It was just, it was gorgeous. Crowds were enormous, and our float numbers were down, but the parade was outstanding with a lot of quality floats. January 24, we had our second annual President's Gala and Business Awards. Again, very well attended. We had 10 awards that we gave away that evening to small businesses and employees of the year and those kinds of things. We had 190 nominations for those 10 awards and 1,200 votes on those. That's spectacular. That says that people are engaged with their business. When we gave the winners their and it was a beautiful, almost like a pyramid type of statue thing. It was gorgeous. They passed it around like they'd won the Academy Award. It was incredible. It was like, oh, come and get your picture taken with the Academy Award. Let me hold it. So it's great. That says we are doing good with the businesses. April, we had our annual strategic plan review, and we continue to focus on the things that we had identified as important and wanting to put effort into. And I will speak to one of those a little bit later. May is this is the best ROI event that we ever have, and that's that crazy little carnival that rolls into town, and the little roadies set that up in downtown. At the end of the weekend, they walk into our office with this bag of about $10,000, and they set this coins and whatever on Alicia's desk and say, see you next year. So it's craziness, crazy. So yeah, we do very little with it, and it usually nets us about $10,000. We had our second trade fair since COVID, and we really, really wrestled with whether we should do this or not. Initially, there were very few vendors. There were, it was like, are we doing this right? And a lot of the other chambers were feeling the same way, that, have the trade fairs outlived their usefulness? Have they hit their expiration date? And we went ahead with it. People are always sort of last minute, and so they stepped in. We did have vendor numbers were up, attendance was up. We did a couple of different things. So we had a beer garden, we had on-stage live music, and that seemed to generate some interest and whatever. We've learned some things from that. It wasn't 100% successful the way we want to. So again, we'll take those lessons back and rejig things and have another one coming up in March, then again in 25. Our golf tournament, again, very well attended, highest number of golfers, highest profit that we have seen for our golf tournament. So very successful. Thankfully, the weather was great. The second summer of our Farmers Fresh Community Market kicked off in June, and we lengthened the time frame by 2 weeks on both ends, and this time Mother Nature took back all of her good vibes. The cool, wet spring meant the local farmers faced some real challenges with their produce, but that was made up over the course of the summer. We average about 600 attendees every Saturday morning, and the highest attendance was 780. So it is a place to be on Saturday mornings in Whitecourt at the Staples parking lot. We were able to obtain some highway signs for the market, and true to form, they were a little late to the party, but because they went up in August, but they are on the highway now. And I will say this, that several of our vendors proudly displayed their Woodlands County local producer banners on their tents and stuff, and they were there every week with those banners. So thank you for those, because it really talks about the local contribution, right? Our vendor numbers were slightly lower than we might like, but so we're always looking for new ones. But the quality of our vendors is it's incredible. You walk past that Shining Moon tent, and it's like, oh my gosh, their display is so beautiful. And sadly, they won't be back. They may have a buyer for their farm, But, and we're hoping that they will, because it was an absolute mainstay. So, but having said that, there are a couple of new ones that have come on as well and want to be a part of it, so, which is awesome. And those Bee Bros, they're county people too. Good grief, those guys are a going concern, love them. Anyway, so we partnered with the town and participated in the Job Expo and the Street Fest. You know, I attended way too many council meetings and open houses and whatever, and this sod turning ceremony for the new culture center. We provided letters of support to Woodlands County on their rebranding, ANC for their grant application for their mill upgrades, and interestingly enough, ladies and gentlemen, I had to verify Miller Western as a viable company in the town of Whitecourt or the area of Whitecourt to one of their overseas customers from Bangladesh. Not once, but twice. So, so every Christmas, we select several members to receive a small gift and a card and a visit from one of the executives. And that's always an interesting exercise, because we have some conversations about what they want, what they like, what they don't like, what does the chamber give them, and so we are able to have those one-on-ones with them. So, and we will continue to do that. We spent about $8,000 on that building to upgrade the electrical in it. Our membership has grown to the highest number that it has been in many years. We are at 231 members. 46 of those are new. We have 5 elite, 2 platinum plus, and 15 platinum, and 8 gold. So those are tiers, right? And you know, and it's funny because it's like you kind of get this, well, I want to be an elite. And why can't I be an elite? And so then you go through this whole process and people got eliminated and it's like, that's not fair, I wanted to be there. So it's like, okay, we clearly have a need then to change some stuff around, and so I'll talk a little bit about that too. We've seen several new members on our board as directors who will be sworn in later because our elections were in October. And Patricia will be one of our directors, she will continue on. Terry Ann Massey will be stepping into my position, and Julie Munker has agreed to take on the vice presidency. Julie is one of the managers out at the casino. And so I will move into the past presidency position. It's always good to move people on, you know. So we've got Ray Hiltz, who's our treasurer, Debbie Davio, Patricia McNeil, Brent McKinnott, Celine Doucette, and as returning directors, and then we've got Hanif Hamir, and Hanif just bought the McDonald's franchise. So is very, very much wanting to get into the community and be a part of the community and stuff. Seems to be a real, really turned on guy, you know. We've got Kim Kaminsky and Shannon Consmo. Am I saying that right? So they will be new directors. So it's really good to see that we have a full roster, right? That it's always not always easy to put people in there, but so obviously people see that there's value and merit to sitting on the chamber board, which to me speaks again to it. So yeah, so our membership levels will see some adjustments, and we've actually got a diamond category now. So it's not just platinum and elite and whatever. So it's diamond, it's platinum, gold, and silver, and then just normal guys like me, nonprofit and small business. So we've added this diamond category then, so that it's not elite and elite plus and whatever. And somebody said, well, actually, diamond isn't the top of it, it should be the platinum, because if you're a figure skater, that's what it is or something. I don't know, but who cares? We're okay. We'll get people to buy into those too. Anyway, and I don't mean that tongue in cheek, I'm just saying that, you know what, those are the things, and so each of them have a different level of financial commitment, and then saying that they get certain perks and stuff for taking on that level. And some of it is about the sponsorships and, you know, tickets to some of our premier events and stuff, right? So, but that'll be all on our webpage as well. So I'm going to talk about this goal on our strat plan, which has been to create a regional, so Woodlands County and Whitecourt Tourism Group. This is not Wild, this is not Town of Whitecourt, this is not Woodlands County. This is we want it to be our region, right? And that would probably include Mayerthorpe, because Mayerthorpe is part of the region that our chamber encompasses. And we want it to be made up of tourist-like people. So the operators, the, people with so we had an initial meeting and we had the guy from the curling rink and from the golf course, the guy from the snowmobile club, Ray Hills with the bikes, right? Julie with the casino, because the casino is a tourist attraction, right? Like, there's buses of people that go to a casino. So that's what we want it to be. And we want to be able to, and here's my focus. And I can, sometimes I can run like a dog with a bone, and I don't want to do that. But when we think about it, and this prior conversation with where is our tourist booth? What are the operating hours? Where is the information about our local attractions? And so for me, what I would like to do is let's walk before we run. Let's not try and be so big that we're trying to be everything to everybody, and then we end up being nothing to anybody. Can we be a tourist in our own town? And you think about that. How many of you have been to the Meteor site? How many of you have been to Hard Luck Canyon? How many of you have been to Fort Assiniboine and done the Voyager thing? To the boat launch, to, all of these things, Rotary Park, that slide, man alive, I've got, it's like, oh, you're into the Whitecourt slide and come out of Edmonton. I'm fishing with this little kid at Carson Pegasus. Guy from Edmonton standing right beside me. We come here all the time because this is such a great place to camp. So we have these jewels that if we're not promoting them, if we're not taking our family and friends and whatever to, why do we expect somebody outside of our region to come and be a tourist in our region? And when I can't go to the tourist booth and say, can you give me the book on Whitecourt so I can tell my family and where we want to go and plan a weekend trip? We've got one of the nicest golf courses, and I'm a golfer. We've got one of the nicest golf courses in the region. And it's not that expensive. And it's not tough. You don't need to lose 55 balls to know that you've had a rotten game, So, and we've got that right here. We've got the mini putt. We've got so many of these things. And are we promoting them? Are we promoting the patio at the golf course as one of the finest patios in the area? We don't do that. We don't blow our own horn. We don't tend to feel that we've got to offer, and yet we do. You want to come for a BMX trip with throw your bikes in the back of your car or your whatever. Bring your RV out to Carson and go and bike. Look at the trail systems. They're beautiful. Absolutely stunning. One of the reasons I moved here was because of that. So when we talk about the eco, the nature, that's what Whitecourt is known for. So can we capitalize on that? And that's to me, that is where I would like to see us focus. Is let's be tourists in our own town. We either get money from internally or externally. I don't think that we are capitalizing on the internal money. You're not going to have an experience by staying at the Holiday Inn. You get a room. You're going to have breakfast in the morning. Yippity-doo. What are you going to do when you're staying at the Holiday Inn, though? oh gosh, you know what, there's a swimming pool and with a slide that you can do at the rec center. And, you know, is there skating on this weekend or is there a hockey game on this? We've got to be our own best marketing. And we fail to do that. And there isn't, like, and I know, because I mean, I was involved with Wild. But again, they're trying to cast a really, really wide net. And to me, it's so diluted that now nobody knows what anybody is. So we want to sort of, you know, close in the net a little bit. And you know, keep it local.
Mhm.
And then, you know, maybe it's a little bit like the ball diamond. If you build it, they will come. You know? So, and it's like the snowmobile trails. They can't be a single entity. Because we can't, they've got to have dual purpose. You know? Can you cross-country ski? Can you take your ATV out there? Can you hook up a toboggan and go down the trails? What can you do with those trails besides put your snowmobile on it? There's beautiful little chalets and stuff along there. Pack your picnic and go, guys. Right? But we don't do that. We don't, because you know what? People need to be led all too often. They need to be spoon-fed some of this stuff because they're not going to look for it. And if we're not doing it, who is? Pray tell. Who is doing it? You know, we don't even have our own stuff in our own tourist booth. You can find stuff there, like I say, from Cold Lake, Grand Prairie, and anywhere in between. And I don't like to say that, but you know what? With what has happened with Jasper, can we capitalize a little bit on, you know, moving some of that traffic a little bit east? So, anyway, that's my deal on that one. So, upcoming events. Sorry, I get a little passionate about it.
That's okay, and we'll have an opportunity to revisit some of the tourism stuff, I'm certain, so.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Really do. So, upcoming events. Okay, so the Small Business Week, Evening of Appreciation, Friday, 25th October at 6 o'clock at the Colton Country Club. And this is where we have got this. Okay, you've got it here. I'm going to just put it up. So this is the partnership. We've got some partners. You, one of them. So it's really about celebrating local businesses. And Bert, I don't know if you want to maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
One free drink, appetizers, and all the networking you can pack into one fun-filled night. Please just show up.
Okay, all right, perfect. But this was done through a grant.
Labor Market Partnership Grant.
There we go.
What's really cool with our Small Business Week activities is you can see on this poster, we have Government of Canada, Government of Alberta, Town of Whitecourt, Woodlands County, Whitecourt BSN Network, the Chamber, and Community Futures Yellowhead East. All have played a role in planning the events and everything that we have happening during the week. Really, the main event we're doing is, it's called Strength Deployment. It's SDI is the acronym. I want to say Strength Deployment Initiative, I think.
Sure.
But it's a team building and leadership training event. And I have a related flyer on that one, but I apologize, I only printed one, so I'll pass this around and we'll make sure that this is available. We've already kind of circulated this out.
Inventory training.
Inventory, strength deployment inventory, thank you. It's amazing the power of a poster. So the exciting thing with this is we went into planning this event as a group with knowing that we had a successful application on a labor market partnership grant from the Chamber. And we said, okay, so as a group of these entities, what can we put forward to the business community that might be of value? And so it's a one-day training session. The individual attendee price would have been $400 per person if it was just straight up without the LMP and the partnership monies and everything all coming in. We were able to offer it at the rate of $30 per person. And I'm happy to say that we have, I believe the count was 52 people signed up to take the training on Monday. So what a great way for us to kick off our Small Business Week activities. And then we also have, during the course of Small Business Week, on the Thursday evening in Edmonton is the EDA Ministry Dinner, so I will be attending that. That's not one of our sponsored activities, but that's an event that both ourselves and I believe White Court and the Community Futures Group, I believe, are sending reps for that as well. And then Friday evening is this event, and I feel like I'm forgetting something else. Is there another chamber event, or is it a BSN meeting throughout the middle of the week?
Might be that, but I don't think there's another.
A chamber event. So,
No.
but anyways, so those were the things, and then I think it's also I think the kickoff week for nominations to come in again for those business awards.
Yes.
So that was the other part of it. So together as part of the team, relying on everybody's strengths and putting things together, we've got a pretty good Small Business Week set of activities set up. And when we were reviewing the numbers over the last part of last week and beginning of this week, it's really interesting. We have a couple of our local businesses that are bringing teams of 5 or 6 people to basically train most of their management staff and everything on this SDI part of it. We do have one attendee coming from Woodlands County. So Lan, our manager for finance, is attending on behalf of Woodlands. And yeah, those are the 2 of those partner events that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So we do have our trunk or treat coming up again, 26th of October.
And the Cauldron of Wonder will be back.
Okay, the Cauldron of Wonder will be back, yay. The kids love it.
It was great fun.
Love it, yeah. Santa Claus Parade is early this year, it's the 16th of November, so please plan on, we'll be decorating. Probably at 360 with the toilets.
And we have confirmed a Woodlands entry for the parade as well.
Good, that's awesome, yeah.
However, it will be, I am away at a conference that weekend, so I have no doubt we will have an incredible Woodlands presence.
Okay, good.
But this will be the first one that I've missed in 8
Oh,
years, so.
Well, so hopefully we have a good one. We changed the dates, we've changed the times, we've changed this 47 ways from Sunday to try and accommodate people. And our biggest complaint was that now it's Christmas party time, right? Those Saturdays are for Christmas parties, and now you're interfering with that. So it's like, okay, we're gonna try this and see how that runs.
I was told that the change was made so that we could make sure that we had Santa Claus there, because it had to fit Santa's schedule. And everybody else better show up and bear with the big guy.
Okay, I like that. I like that idea better than my explanation because mine doesn't work. Christmas for Kids is the 30th of November, of which yours truly will be showing up as the Grinch. That's what I'm called at work. God, I've even got a Grinch thing on my door. Anyway, so yeah, it'd be the Grinch. I'm Dreaming of a White Court Christmas will be launched again. And then again, the President's Gala, the 25th of January. And you know what, a lot of people use it as a post-Christmas party for their staff. And especially if they've got small staff, right? And if you're in retail, you know that you're going flat out, you're exhausted by the time Christmas comes around. But this sort of gives you 3 weeks to sort of catch your breath and get caught up on things. And several people bought tables and they used it as their Christmas party. It was really neat. And it's just a fantastic affair. It really is. And so this will be my swan song for it. I like being in the chamber. I really do. But it's work. Mm-hmm. Any position is. So anyway, so we will have our business awards that evening as well. So, and I did bring these posters for the Santa Claus Parade and whatever as well. So, are there any questions?
Thanks, Louise. Appreciate you coming. And as you say, it's been, the relationship has always been strong, but it's nice to have a representative from the chamber come and keep us abreast of what the chamber is doing. I wanted to touch a bit on the tourism initiative that you'd spoken about. And you may know this, and forgive me if you do, and stop me if you're aware of this, but in the past, and when I say past, probably a period from approximately 2007 to maybe 2019-ish, Whitecourt, the town of Whitecourt and Woodlands County participated in a joint economic and tourism committee. Were you aware of that?
I was not.
Okay, so that was a thing, and it was highly successful. And when I first joined that committee, we were kind of searching for an identity, and what we decided was the higher order economic activity recruitment facilitation really was a function of both councils, and so that committee decided to focus on tourism. And so there was a focus on tourism, and the market that we targeted, other than our own residents obviously, was the greater Edmonton area. So, there was a concerted campaign, numerous advertising initiatives went in. We had a website, it was called ruboard.ca, that listed all of the things in the area that somebody coming into the area could experience. And it's my hope that the two councils will see a need for that committee to be reborn. It may not be, but a tremendous resource is Bert and or Rhonda to kind of get an idea of what had happened in the past. So it was, we were walking down that path, and then with all that happened between the two municipalities, it was decided to end that committee. But I think there's benefit if that committee was resurrected.
And I agree. And one of the things with the chamber, okay, is that it's not politically driven in that regard. So it's kind of Switzerland, right? And which gives it then just a little bit different flavor.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And because we are by our definition a regional organization, right? And I agree 100% that one of our target markets will be that Edmonton area, right? It's not that it's just going to be here, right? But the infancy part of it would be, let's walk before we can run. Maybe we can sort of jog a little bit if we've got some stuff, that we can, if we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Wonderful. It would be great to have that. And we just want to be very politically neutral, right? But we need to have the partnership though with the town and with the county because of the financial part of it. We need that, And so if we can be that hub, right, that the spokes come out from the various like councils and ECDEV committees and whatever, right? Then but we're that axle, right?
Sure. So a couple of things in support of that idea. The first one, and Bert, I think you've heard me say this before. That committee had a presentation from the mayor of Sylvan Lake. I'm going to say it was probably about 2015, 2016. And that area of the province has a real concerted tourism focus with the lake there, right?
Yes, you bet.
So they have a phrase, at that time, I'm not sure if they're still using it, but it really struck me as something that was transferable to any organization like yours that's looking to promote tourism. And the phrase was, visitor friendly, resident focused. And it, you know, even if you use that just as a principle,
Yeah.
you know, I think it really speaks to what our local organizations are looking to do, and that's to make sure that the experience for our residents are great.
Yes.
And the facilities are used by our residents, and yeah, we would definitely welcome. So the second thing, and then I'll be quiet about this.
No, it's fine. I thank you for sharing this.
Sure. I know through TikTok and Facebook, I have seen numerous short clips that the town of Whitecourt, I think it's the Active Department, has put out advertising the bike park and festival park, the golf course, the bike trails. And those, as I understand, were facilitated through a co-op grant with Travel Alberta. And they were very professionally done, and you know, they're in that 1.5 to 2 minute range. So you know, they capture today's generation. And those, I believe, reside with the town of Whitecourt. But that type of thing is invaluable in getting the message out as well.
Absolutely.
And
I
they've done a
agree.
really good job with it already. So you talked about not reinventing the wheel. You know, there could be a library of things that could be used.
I think there probably is.
Yeah.
There's material, there's written material somewhere. You know, I know that Wild put out a nice book and whatever. And Wild also had some awesome video clips. I didn't appreciate what the videographer did with it, because he cut all the people out of it.
Right.
And I mean, and that was his own thing though, right? And he said, I deal with people all the time, so I didn't want any people in there. And it's like, who do you think is having the experience? This looks like a used RV
Yeah.
park, not the park up at Fort Assiniboine where that boat launch is and stuff, right? I mean, it's a beautiful marina, thank you. It's a beautiful RV park there. Not a person in the whole cliff. It's like,
Yeah. So that was wild. The ones that
that's,
the
yes,
town
that
did
is,
were-
that is wild, but I'm saying that there is some of that somewhere as well,
Mhm.
right?
You had another comment, Bert?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think that that's some excellent commentary and a great starting place on some of the tourism part of things. Alan, as you said, you know, the internal issue that I've faced when we've talked about in recent years, how do we market some of our tourism sites within the county, is we have infrastructure issues where our facilities are built as recreation facilities. They're not meant and built to standard to do a high volume of tourism.
Right.
So that phrase, visitor-friendly resident focus, I think encapsulates a lot of that intent, and I think that's a great place for us to start in regards to kind of building this sort of group, because what we can identify as we go along, and we know that there's recreation master plans and there's some of those other things. Something that I don't know that we've ever done regionally is any kind of a tourism master plan, and that may be something to put on, you know, the bigger strategic scale part of things. But we certainly are asset rich in what we can market, and I think that given what we've learned through Wild, and we've learned through the experience of some of the other tourism agencies that have been government-led, is it doesn't work when it's government-led. It has to be an operator-led kind of a system. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a very significant government role at the table. And I think that's really what the Chamber is putting forward, is to say, as an extension of the Chamber, let's have some kind of a tourism focus and make sure that we're using the local assets we have, marketing them well, trying to get everybody onto the same page. So I think it's a really brilliant idea. And then further to what you said, Louise, we know that rural tourism in Alberta is transitioning, and we have the regional plan now through the Alberta Northern Rockies. We know that we have the plan from the province for them to do their $10 billion outside of the main areas. with Jasper being in the state that it's in at the moment, this is a fantastic opportunity to help to change some of those traditional tourism arrows and some of those things. So that this might be really, really unique and great as well. And so I think we have a lot to discuss ahead. And I believe, Ellen, it's the same group that we had used for the GT, that Seekers Media, I think are the ones that had put those pieces together. But we were very pleased with the work that they did with the GT as well. We know that, you know, they have good work and good things that they do. And Louise, as you mentioned, sometimes your videographer and your outside contractor experience is less than
Yeah, these guys were great.
wonderful.
And
So
the product was great.
yeah, so I think, so that's part of it, is we have the opportunity to be able to work together and focus and kind of land on some things. So I guess what I'm kind of looking for there, the direction, and what I've already, based on discussions with, and I always get her name wrong, Alicia?
Yes,
Right?
perfect.
Okay, I'm right now. Jen's corrected me about 3 times this week saying, Bert, you're not saying her name right.
You always say
So-
Alyssa.
Well, that's what I do. Alicia, I hope you're having fun in Halifax. Keep up the good work. In conversation with her, the idea has been, well, can we put something into the county budget for next year in ECDev on the tourism piece? So council is going to see that. We'll put a request in for roughly $5,000 as kind of some starting money and see where that may kind of take us. But at least that is a budget item that we'll identify and we'll put in front of council for consideration as well.
Sure.
Could or would there be any place for, you know, the infrastructure within that system of roads and whatever, that perhaps some of those access to some of these things, the Meteor, the Hardlock Canyon, whatever, and forgive me because I have not been there, but my understanding is that they're pretty tough to get to.
Yes.
No, Hardlock Canyon's not tough to get to at all.
In the winter.
Well, see, in Hardlock Canyon, we deem it as seasonal, and the reason that it's
Okay.
closed during the winter time is because it's unsafe.
We don't plow, okay,
Right.
and that's fine, but you know what, but do we have things like a parking lot, do we have a picnic
Yes.
table, do we have,
Yes.
right?
And then this is the unfortunate thing on the infrastructure side, is the amount of vandalism we've experienced the last 2 years has been horrendous.
But all those things are in place.
Okay, all right, but again, those are one of the things that when we look at a tourism master plan, that you identify as things that we
Yes.
need to consider, that's all, but.
Well, and the opportunity for private development at those various locations as well, because
Sure.
for us as the county, that's one of our big gaps, right? Probably one of the easiest things for us to develop would be the tubing put in and the tubing pull out, right? And we know, and we had done a tubing day back 5 or 6 years ago, where the number one concern that people have is, well, if I'm gonna come out to do that, I need to bring 2 vehicles, because how do I go to both ends of the tubing, right?
Right.
So if you have a central place, or if you have an operator who can help people to provide them with equipment, provide them the route, give them a bit of a safety debrief, whatever the case may be, but then make sure that there's transportation there to get them from the back end back to the front end. The problem is it's not a full-time seasonal business. But if we have several operators working together, right, there's a lot of different co-op models and a lot of different business models and things that we can pursue to say, hey, this is the chamber role that might work, right?
Yes.
Much as you guys have done with facilitating the market, right?
Yes.
It's a fantastic opportunity. It engages and it empowers a lot of other businesses. It creates a huge new opportunity. But for it to be done under a traditional investment, return on investment kind of a business model, it maybe doesn't quite make sense.
Well, and it's so weather dependent.
Yes.
Yes,
You-
absolutely.
you
Absolutely,
go
and-
weeks on end when there's no, I live right there, right at the tubing. I
Right.
drive by it every day,
Yep.
and there are weeks and almost months where there's nobody there.
Yeah, and that is and depending, like you say, on weather and stuff, but there was something that you said that clicked with me, and then I didn't write it down, but I just feel that I think that we've got a really good starting point. We're garnering some really good people to sit on this thing, people that are doers. They're not gonna sit on their laurels and wait for something to happen. They're gonna make it happen. And that's what's gonna make this thing have its wings, right? So there's there's an appetite to do it. And I think that, you know what, post-COVID, things have shifted. People are looking at different ways to spend their very precious, non-existent extra money. So, anyway, so thank you. Thank you kindly for indulging me with my little thing.
Thank you so much for that presentation, and the great conversation that it generated as well. I think it's nice to see that going in the right direction. Now, so just to clarify, Bert, then you require a motion to have the request for $5,000 put in?
Well, no, we'll just simply, we'll put it on the budget request that council will see.
Okay.
With the understanding that, you know, we have had requests from the chamber that do you have the ability and capacity to participate in some kind of a tourism venture next year? So I think that with that in mind, that was sort of the amount I had in mind. Certainly recommendation from the board, if that amount is too high, too low, if there's any feedback from the chamber at this point as to the amount you're looking for, whatever works, we can make sure that we have that amount in the budget request and then go from there.
Do we need
And
a motion to accept the delegation?
Yes.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'd move that the Economic Development Committee accepts the presentation from the Whitecourt and District Chamber of Commerce as information, and thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All
Or do we
right.
want a further motion in regards to a budget amount? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry about that. So,
We have a motion on the table, right?
yes.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's
I
okay.
jumped ahead.
Okay, and so that being said, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Devin?
In favor.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, and before we move on, just to clarify, so then go ahead, Bert, on your point.
Yes, so just a question to the committee. Does the committee have an amount in mind that they would like us to put forward to council to request for a tourism initiative with the chamber next year? Or if we put a $5,000 in, that kind of aligns it with some of the other things that we participate in. And that includes, right now, in the budget, we have, I believe it's $7,000 this year that we had in for the Economic Forum, the President's Dinner. So the Economic Forum wasn't held, but the President's Dinner, the Trunk or Treat, and then the Trade Fair participation. So that's kind of what we're already at in regards to having our monies available to participate in those various chamber events that Louise has mentioned.
I know currently, my thought on that in regards to it is that we consistently spend $15,000 supporting the Golden Triangle. So that's something that I would look at if they're looking at an initiative, and if I kind of correlate, you know, where they're going with it, I would like to see a similar amount, at least directed to the chamber. So, because I think we're looking at such a broad spectrum of importance, it's not just targeted to one specific activity. So when we're looking at that, then I would definitely like to see that amount as 15,000 at least. I'm curious if there's any other discussion.
Can I just speak to that then too? So one of the things that we were kind of thinking about, and again, please understand that this is very much in its infancy, right? Was to have like an experience day.
Mhm.
So, you know, if the weather is nice, you go tubing, and then you go to Hard Rock Canyon, and you go to the park, and you go to the bike thing, and right, so people can experience these different activities, and so that also then, of course, requires some kind of a financial. There will be some financial implications with that, let's just say that. So, and maybe that's part of the grant that we apply for, but again, that's that experience thing, right? So then it's a far-reaching.
Go ahead, Alan.
I just want to speak to the comparison to the Golden Triangle, to the 15,000 that we put in. That organization has been in existence for a number of years, and it has liaison with Travel Alberta, and it's got a proven track record of what it does. So I'm not sure that it's appropriate to use that as a comparison because of of what I just said. I support the chamber initiative to further bring awareness to the tourism opportunities that are in the area. With all due respect, I don't see a detailed plan that of where the dollars would go to. So I'd be more in favor of the $5,000 and let's see where this goes. And if it grows legs and it continues to have initiatives along here, then perhaps we could go forward with additional funding at that time.
I think that's a fair assumption. Okay,
So-
go ahead, Bert.
So Madam Chair, just to give some comparisons for the committee as well, so just in kind of checking through in the existing budget, for the open farm days, we offer between $500 to $1,000 in support, $2,000 to the Career Expo, $5,000 for the summer boot camps. Those are just kind of some of the other comparatives, so I think that, you know, you put it within that perspective and that range. That was sort of where I had structured the 5,000 as well. You use that as a baseline, but I mean, all committee input's always welcome, so.
Okay, excellent. Then I would entertain a motion if somebody would like to put that forward.
So just point of order, do we need a motion or is this just going to be part of your budget?
Well, it may have more strength in the budget if we do have a motion from the committee, but again, I'll leave that to the committee to decide. I mean, having yourself and Devin on as counselors and being part of the discussion, as you guys are going through your discussions on council budget and all that, you'll be able to keep all of this in mind, of course. So whatever you feel would be the best tool.
Okay, so to that end, Devin, what are your thoughts as to whether we need a motion or just speak to a budget deliberation?
Yeah, I think most of the boards I sit on, we make a motion to add specific things like that, but we definitely heard the whole conversation. I don't think that we would need one. I think just add it in and we can speak to it then if it comes up, that's for sure.
That's my thought, is just put it as a part of your overall budget request, and then we can speak to it at budget time.
Okay.
And I tell you, the reason my hesitation is just all of those other entities that you spoke to, we know exactly what they're doing, right? They, you know, that the Career Expo, the boot camp, you know, we can, if somebody had a question, we could say, well, this is what those events are. We don't exactly know what's going on here, right? We know the concept, but I just think it's a little bit fuzzy.
Well, and I mean, this is really the start of the discussion as well, and there's always the opportunity for the chamber to come back and to make a formal presentation to council as well.
Yeah, that too. So
Excellent.
that would be my.
If I,
Go ahead, Devin.
sorry, I should have put my hand up there. Yeah, I think the same, because if you put a motion to it, it almost kind of ties those funds up, I think, a little bit as well, where this way, kind of the discussion was here. If there's money that's warranted, then we can put it to that, I guess. Trying to organize my thoughts, but yeah, I don't think a motion is something that you'd have to put on this. It's a part of Bert's budget. It goes in there. We can talk to it.
Okay, perfect. Then let's take that discussion, and thank you for those comments. And I would say we don't require a motion then on that part, so let's move right on to our new business and 6.1. And actually, yes, I was gonna say, and
You're welcome.
you're welcome to stay if you like,
If
Louise.
you wish, our meetings
If
are
not,
open. If you
you're
want to stay
totally
and watch the
welcome.
rest, It's totally up to you, whatever you'd like to do.
I will take leave and thank you kindly for the invitation and for dinner and
You bet.
conversation. So, and thank you for the support. I realize that, I really wasn't asking for money, but I think that, you know, without a plan that has great warrant, right? I mean, and it can be a little fuzzy. I'd love to have your $15,000. We could, but again, we've you know, you're into budget deliberations now. If it's not put there, it won't be there for anything. but we can come back and with a plan and with a request, and that makes more sense too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay?
Awesome,
I
thank you.
think if you, as this develops out, if you can give us a bit of a letter or an invitation to say, here's how we would like the county to participate, I
Absolutely.
think that would be great.
And you know what, and I think, and that was our point, that we would do a regular touch point with the economic development committees continually, so that you were really a part of it, but you're not sitting at the table with it, right? So it's not politically driven, right?
Excellent.
Sure.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Louise. And just to put in the shameless YouTube plug, please, by all means, check out and share the link to our YouTube channel and our wonderful ECDEP committee.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise.
Is there a place that you would like me to put that, or?
You can just leave it right there and we'll deal with it, no worries. That's easy.
Thank you. And moving right into 6.1, Bert, I will turn new business and Prairies Canada program back over to you.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it's hard to follow that, but I'll do my best. We know that at the federal level, Prairies Can is, of course, the federal funding agency that directly administers a number of different program platforms for assisting in the growth of the economy in several sectors across Western Canada. And that being said, Cami Curry is the lady who is our regional representative with Prairies Can, and I do have regular conversations with Cami. We actually have about once a month, about a 15-20 minute check-in and that sort of thing, where we have a chance to go through a number of things. And the last time I spoke with her, we talked about a number of the different funding platforms and things that are there within Prairies Can. We as an entity and as Woodlands ourselves have not really applied to any of these federal programs, but that's in part because some of them don't allow municipalities themselves to apply. But we have certainly provided support letters to some of our companies that have applied, especially on some of the emissions reductions things and I always forget the acronym. I want to call it the ISA, but I don't think that's the one. But they've got a number of different funding platforms. The one that is of interest, and that especially as we talk about the value of our partnerships and the different groups that we work with, is this Community Economic Development and Diversification Grant, the CEDD. And with that, whether it is an Indigenous group that we're working with, whether it is a nonprofit group that we're working with, there are some things that are, as we've just kind of discussed, directly related to tourism, and there's some opportunities on those things. But really the focus of a lot of these grants is how do you get, have your economy recover from shocks? How do you make it to be more resilient? How do you get people that may not be fully involved in the economy? And that was what I wanted to do tonight, was to kind of bring the CEDD funding program to the committee to see if there was any ideas or thoughts that anyone had on what we maybe could look at applying for, or if there is something that we should put together for an expression of interest, or if there is an opportunity, do we want to maybe even ask Cami to come and to present to our group to talk about some of the successful programs and things that have happened through this program and some of the other ones, to say maybe these are things we would like to consider within our region. So that was really the thought, is we don't, unfortunately, with all of the other things we have on our schedule, often have a lot of time to address and talk about some of the federal programming. This seemed to be a great opportunity to bring it up.
Excellent. Thank you, Bert. Does anybody want to get started? I did have some comments. So one of the things that when I looked into the criteria for the SEED grant was brainstorming some of the ideas, for example, and taking it and looking at what kind of programs could we have here and how could that essentially apply. And out of 10 initially that I come out with. So some of the top 3, like one was tourism development for outdoor adventure and ecotourism. So which really tied into essentially Louise's presentation and what she had mentioned about their tourism group. And this is literally just really high level ideas, but something like this, technically what it could look like is it would be for outdoor activity, adventure and ecotourism project would aim to leverage the region's natural assets to attract more visitors. The project would create new hiking trails, campgrounds, eco-friendly tourism infrastructure, promoting the county as a destination for outdoor enthusiasts. The project objective would be attracting outdoor and ecotourism and creating employment opportunities in tourism hospitality sectors and promoting sustainability through eco-friendly tourism initiatives. Some of the activities, even things looking biking trails, campgrounds, eco-lodging, creating marketing campaigns, and partnering with local businesses to offer eco-friendly services like guided tours, wildlife observations, etc. So this is something that is just an idea that would generally fit into the criteria from the grant the way it's written. And expected outcomes, something like that, you'd be looking at increasing your visitors by about 20%, creating up to 50 new tourism-related jobs, with generating $2 million annually in tourism revenue. And so something like that, what you'd be looking at as well is with the SEED grant, it only covers 50% of the funding.
Right.
And of course, considering our current financial situation, I know if we were putting forward an idea, we really want to see it co-funded by something, some additional grants that we could kind of piggyback on. So something like that, what it could look like is there's grant funding available from Travel Alberta Cooperative Marketing, the Canada Nature Fund, and things like the Rural Tourism Action Grant. So those could be some potential partners that would look at covering that other 50% of the cost. So additionally, and there's 3 that I had. So that was another inclusive agricultural business incubator. And something with this, of course, and I know that in the ag sector and ag tourism as well is definitely a growing portion of the tourism industry. And they talk about the Ag Business Incubator as providing training, mentorship, and shared facilities for underrepresented groups, including women, youth, and Indigenous communities in agriculture. The incubator would focus on small-scale farming, agro-tourism, and value-added food production. So project objective would be things like supporting small-scale agricultural businesses through training and mentorship, providing shared resources like commercial kitchens, marketing support, e-commerce platforms, etc., and fostering collaboration and networking with these underrepresented agricultural entrepreneurs. So activities would be things like business training and mentorship programs, creation of shared agricultural facilities, and something like this as well. Co-funding options could be things like the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada's Agri-Diversity Program for up to $100,000. Canadian Agricultural Partnership is CAP, Alberta, $75,000. And the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy would be another potential to look into for co-funding options. So the third one, actually, I apologize, I just got to grab my notes from Bert here.
Sorry, I did keep that on you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the idea of the ag incubator, that was one of the thoughts that I had. The other was, is there something along the Indigenous involvement or inclusion line of things that we may be able to take a look at? And then I know you've got another good one there as well, Madam Chair. Go ahead. Okay, awesome. The other one is also kind of tying into what was mentioned earlier about community resiliency. So, and essentially a community resiliency plan that what it would look at is to address economic shocks, natural disasters, and environmental challenges such as wildfires. The project would focus on building resilience within the community
ensuring long-term sustainability and economic growth by developing a robust adaptation strategy. The program aligns with the SEED program by leveraging local strengths, fostering inclusivity, and responding to specific economic challenges in the county. It would stimulate local employment, engage underrepresented groups, foster community collaboration in the face of ongoing economic and environmental challenges. And I have this is a fairly complicated plan, more laid out with further expected outcomes and so on. But one of the things that was most interesting with this, I think, is going back to a year ago when we were at, I believe it was Growing the North, maybe at the earlier in the year, and when we're looking at the long-term demographics for Woodlands County, and the projections is a declining population. So by 2050. So I think that that's something that we really need to continue to be mindful of. And that when we're looking at something like this in a community resilience program, one of the other things that it does, if we already had a robust resiliency program in place, when we're entertaining large-scale industries to come here, it's part of our attraction plan. And we can say, we've already planned for this disaster, here's our emergency response in advance, and we have already looked after these concerns for you. So I think that it would better place us and give us a strategic advantage in that regard. So those were three, like I said, the top three that I had. There was another one that I didn't actually bring the notes forward on as well, an Indigenous youth project for Indigenous youth entrepreneurship. And that's another one that actually would also meet this criteria. Go ahead.
So there was a couple of programs that had an Indigenous bent. The local Friends Society here is taking steps to becoming a friendship center, and most of those steps are administrative in nature, and they feel that they should have all of that covered off within the next few months, which will then allow for some provincial funding to flow through to them, which would enable them to actually hire an admin person. And I think programs like these would be, it'd be great to bring that to that Friendship Society's attention. I don't think they're quite ready for it yet. I don't think they want to bite something like that off now. But I can see, in the next couple of years that they're probably, they may be ready for that then.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Am I correct, Bruce, or Bert, that all of these programs through Prairies Canada, really we're looking for an operator to come and set up shop and access these grants?
Yes, so there are some really interesting success stories on the success stories part of the site, and I mean things ranging from the group down near Medicine Hat, where what they did was establishing a UAV testing area, right through to and I'm just double checking here, setting up an artificial intelligence and machine learning center. One of the other ones was the winter tourism, especially around the Francophone group. Their canoe festival, they were a big recipient of federal funding and of some of those things. So right down to sort of that, having that local identified group that may want to do, some kind of a specific recurring event or tourism kind of thing. So yes, that's a very big part of it. And because we just haven't really talked about it before, I thought that this was a great time to bring it to the committee. And I've got kind of a couple of suggested actions. So number one would be, if everyone is comfortable with it, we can accept the RFD as information. And then the second step would be whether it's myself and our chair sitting down and having a better conversation with Cami, or whether the group would like to have Cami come and maybe present and talk a little bit about Prairies Can overall. We can certainly do that connection as well. But I think the idea would be is if we have one or two of these ideas we want to flesh out and to develop out as expressions of interest, the question would be, based on how we're doing that grant funding this year, and I know Denisha has been very clear to say, please just put in grants that you think for sure you're going to apply for and be able to receive, right? We don't want to kind of inflate that. So if it is something that appeals to the committee and we really want to put it on the hit list for 2025, then what we should do is to probably say, well, let's put in a budget allocation of such and such in that, grant part of things, to say this is what we want to do, and Patricia and I can work with Cami and we'll develop an EOI and come back with a further update and report, and maybe there are some partner entities we can approach directly, because anything from the RETA to Community Futures themselves to there's probably half a dozen other groups that we could identify might all have some really great ideas that might flow in underneath some of these programs. But it's an area that honestly, in part it comes from having Jennifer on board. I have a little bit more time to reach out and do some of this stuff now. So that's where it's kind of stretching our wings a little bit too.
Thank you. Go ahead.
It's true that Chair Bird, I agree with that type of procedure. Myself personally, I don't know enough about the program to really see a specific idea. That the three items that you brought forward, they all have merit. To me, they all need, except for the community resiliency, they all need an entity to step forward and be the flag carrier, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to learn more and maybe hear from Cami some success stories in communities like us, so that we can compare that and maybe give us a better idea of what we might want to try and focus on. One of the things that pops to mind is, were you at the meeting with the school divisions?
I wasn't there, but I did provide some of the materials for the Reeve and for Joan to deliver, and I did get a debrief.
So the one of the school divisions that was there was the Francophone school division, and I wasn't even, aware of this. Did you know, Audrey, that there's a Francophone school division in Alberta? You're aware of that?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. Well, most of the people in the room that weren't aware of it. And the gentleman, so they had the superintendent there, and they had some school board members there, and they gave us an overview of what exactly that program is. And essentially, if there's somebody whose parents were educated in French, the Constitution allows that their children could then, and so there's no school here, but if that movement would gather momentum, there could be a school here in our community. And what he was talking about was the opportunity for federal dollars to flow through that. For example, if you wanted to have like a winter carnival that would celebrate the French history, and there's often funding available. So maybe maybe that's another tie-in that Cami could talk about. But I'd like to hear from her what's going on around the province.
So this is just a blurb from the website. So the winter tourism in Edmonton gets a boost with the interactive Flying Canoe Volant Festival. The Flying Canoe Volant is boosting Edmonton's reputation as a cultural and winter city destination. It bridges French, Canadian, First Nations, and Métis cultures through a unique and interactive prairies experience. And if you've never seen it, what they do is they actually carve out on the side of the hill. I can't remember which park it is. The downtown one on the north side of the one by the university, Horlock Park. So what they do is they actually carve out an ice tunnel, and you get in a canoe at the top and shoot. But that's just part of their ice festival and the other parts of their winter city events. But this is, as you said, Alan, a specific Francophone kind of event, right? And yeah, it's been a great boon for them, and I know worked in Beaumont, we worked with the Francophone Association routinely on a bunch of different things. And it's kind of amazing how when you get into that, the niche tourism, the things that can develop and that are really fun and really unique, right? So,
And there's dollars available.
yes.
Right.
So to kind of tie this together then, I guess what we could definitely look at is, like you had mentioned, we can have a conversation as well, but then the appetite for the group, could we look at bringing Cammie, asking her if she's available to join remotely for our next meeting and do a short presentation on what the success stories have been throughout the province so that we have an idea of what we'd be looking at for a municipality similar to ours?
I know her schedule is intense, and knowing Cammie, I'm sure she would love to present in person here if she could. So we'll extend an invitation to her, and I'll see what works best for her. But if we could get her here in either November or December, that would sure be great. So that's what I'll put forward to her when I speak to her tomorrow.
Okay, do we have any further comments or discussion on this particular program?
Is there a desire at this time to put something into the budget as saying this is possible, one of those possible federal grant programs, and we want to allocate X amount of dollars towards it, or are we jumping the gun a bit?
If you're asking me, I think it's the latter. I don't think I'm ready to support that. Just to give you guys a flavor of what happens at budget time, you know, if you come to council and you're asking for more money, they're gonna wanna know why.
Of course.
Right,
And I don't really have a good answer of why right now.
Yes.
So-
Agreed.
agreed, yeah, okay.
So with that, I move that the Economic Development Committee accepts the Prairie's Can material as information.
Any further discussion on the motion? Awesome. All in favor?
In favor.
Thanks, Devin. Perfect, thank you so much. Alrighty, then, moving right along. And under our work plan updates and our action items, I believe on that one, there
So I didn't have an RFD under the work plan updates, but we did want to mention some of the upcoming events. Louise mentioned most of them, so October 26th, the trunk or treat. Volunteers are still needed. We would love to have at least half a dozen people helping out with that trunk or treat tent in the Cauldron of Wonder. So please, if you are available and have a couple hours to spare, it would be wonderful to have you come out. I know Councillor Dean unfortunately is going to be away, but he had so much fun last year, and he did a fantastic job last year. He was just smiling the whole time, much as he is now.
Well, the kids were so fun to watch. They just loved it. And you and Shane behind there, especially Shane, he was priceless. They were fishing. These kids were fishing for things, and Shane would pull it back and make them reach for it. And gosh, it was funny.
we had great fun at the track fair
Excellent.
with that as well. All right, then let's.
So the other event then is, and an item to note, so the Chamber Parade is on November 16th, as was mentioned a little bit earlier this year. We do have a parade entry confirmed. I am working with infrastructure. We'll have the usual grader and trailer and all of that. I will be here to be able to help to plan and to get everything ready. However, unfortunately, I will be gone to that Salt Lake City conference, leaving the day prior. So Jen has not done a Christmas parade yet, but is incredibly capable. And between Jen and Ambrose, I'm sure we will have as wonderful, or probably a better entry than we normally do. The Small Business Week events we've mentioned. The other things that I wanted just to mention to the committee. So with that SCOPE program, the one that we're working on the benchmark study and on the agricultural part of things, Sean Goodeve, our consultant, will be here the week of November 11th to be doing some in-person interviews, both some internal and some external ones at that time. And then, yes, I will be away from November 16th to November 23rd. And one other point of note, because we have the organizational committee or organizational meeting pending for the county, there we go, thank you. We don't have a November meeting date set yet because yes, my understanding is both of our members at large who have their time ending on the committee under their current appointment, Shelley and Kirsten, have submitted applications, and so of course that is a council process, and council considers all of the applications received as part of that due process. So we will know sometime in the beginning of November whether there's any changes to our committee and to those two members at large. And then from there, usually what we do is we usually set that next meeting in November after that first part of things. But that may be something that as we get into the end of the meeting tonight, maybe this group does want to specify a day or a range of days where we may want to reach out and say what works best for an active committee meeting for November. And that was all. Thank you.
Okay. I think actually, in regards to your comment, let's maybe deal with that right now.
Okay.
In regard to potential dates. At the moment, my question would be, as far as leaving as penciled into the calendar for the third Thursday of the month, the same as what we have held the meetings. And then at that organizational meeting, if we do go ahead, once the new members are elected, if we're able to get quorum for that day, then we would set a new schedule for the following year based on the people that are participating.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay.
Me too.
And we don't require a motion for that, I don't believe, then, do we, Bert?
No,
perfect.
that would be all. It was just to make sure that it was on everybody's radar, that's all.
Awesome.
I noticed earlier today that we didn't have a specific date set yet for November.
Perfect. Okay, then let's move right along to 8.2.
Okay, and then so that brings us to, that would be the blue sky, correct?
You betcha.
Okay, making sure I'm not losing things here. So under the blue sky discussion, a couple of interesting recent articles related to the nuclear power industry. And it was interesting that these articles are coming from CBC, and we're getting pretty fair treatment, I think. So we have the first article regarding how we have a private entity that is looking at proposing a large-scale nuclear power plant. So not the SMRs, but a large CANDU 3 or similar kind of reactor that would produce a gigawatt or more to be built in the Peace River area. And it would be entirely privately funded, market-driven kind of an entity. What I thought was interesting about the article was they said that they envision this as being something that no public money would be involved in, but yet I don't know if they've addressed the need of AESO to have to build or upgrade the power line system to get to the plant, which could have a price tag with a B on it, but who knows. So that was one interesting thing in that first article. On the second was just an article about we have small modular reactor proponents gathering in Edmonton, and then a link to the SMR forum in Edmonton, which I'm happy to say we actually had two of our councillors attend, one of whom who's here with us this evening. So Alan, if there's anything you'd like to pass along about the SMR forum.
Yeah, as a person that didn't have a very big knowledge base about SMRs, it was a great opportunity to go and learn. The provincial government was well represented by 3 different ministries, and the consistent message from the provincial or from the province was that they're welcome to the idea. There's certainly Brian Jean spoke 2 or 3 times about looking at what's going on in Ontario and learning from the successes and, in his words, and the failures. What I got from him was that the province didn't necessarily want to be bleeding edge when it came to the thing, to the idea.
Right.
But there were 3 different areas where the province really sees SMRs fitting in. One was to help power the oil sands. to displace some of the natural gas produced heat through electricity. Another one was AI, and that was really interesting for me. AI consumes an incredible amount of data, which requires an incredible amount of electricity. So there's a natural marriage there. The incongruency there is that AI can set up shop relatively quickly, whereas SMRs, that's not a quick process. So those two opportunities seem, kind of the proverbial no-brainer. And then the third idea was just the fact that SMRs could help from a greenhouse gas point of view to replace some of the coal or the natural gas generating facilities. So what I take from that is that it's not a done deal in our province, but there's certainly great opportunity, and the province is not going to put up barriers. If anything, they want to remove barriers. So it'll be interesting to see where that process goes. But very grateful to attend that conference. I think John Burrows and I were the only elected officials there. And, when we networked during coffee breaks and, the various networking opportunities that were there for us, almost invariably when you'd meet somebody and they'd look at your name bag and their name tag and they'd see that you were an elected official, the conversation immediately went to, what's the appetite in what's your role? And so, we had to be politically correct with our answers, but great interest, the fact that there was representation. So we did get a chance to meet with 2 or 3 of the major players, and made lots of contacts. One of the contacts that really could be utilized by us in the future is a mayor in the area of Ontario where Bruce Power has set up shop. He's the president of, I'm going to forget the acronym, but essentially it's a coalition of communities that support nuclear power. And his words were that he would never tell a community what to do, but he'd be certainly there to ask questions or answer questions. So he could be a resource if we have questions.
Awesome, excellent.
He was willing at any time to patch into via Teams to our council meeting or to this committee meeting. So
I think that's fantastic. Thank you. I know that's one I definitely was trying to fit in my schedule to go even for a day, and I just wasn't able to make it work. There is, if it's appropriate, Bert, I would like to ask that the link that I had sent you for that video, I had sent Bert a link earlier for a video. It's actually out of the States, but what's happened in the last few days, there's been a number of their big media have been reporting on Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have come forward and have stated interest in SMRs. And specifically in this video, it's good for anybody watching on YouTube now if we can have it added under this section to update our agenda package.
Yeah, we could either make the link public through doing that. That might be a little bit difficult.
Okay,
But
then-
what we certainly can do, I'll make sure that we get it sent to the committee and to council.
Okay,
I can
perfect.
certainly send that for sure. And I think the partnering event to that is Alberta with Invest Alberta had made a sojourn down to Silicon Valley recently to talk about positioning Alberta as a great place to locate data centers and that sort of thing because of the availability of power and water and all of that. So I think that we know the province and Invest Alberta are certainly leading the way on this, but it's great to send out all of that information out. So I'll make sure that I get that out tomorrow.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And essentially what it covers is it gives a very succinct explanation of what a data center is. And essentially, when you're looking at your banks of computer processing units and how those are very dense and they're creating heat.
Right,
And they require the heat to be cool, they require cooling.
right.
And that cooling requires a lot of electricity. So they're looking at areas where they can even remotely set up these data centers. And something like the small modular reactors, they can literally be manufactured in a plant facility and then put on a truck and driven to a location and installed. So they're looking at private contractors in the US right now that are building these, and they said that the ones potentially in the article that, in the video that I was watching that they had mentioned about this, they would be online and running by 2030. So it's something, especially now with the mega expansion using AI and the demand huge, it's beyond, I heard Elon Musk use a term that it was beyond exponential growth of and requirement of these data centers. So it's something that's going to be becoming more and more a requirement in order to, because just our desire for this information now is becoming such a large factor. So it's just a great resource, and it puts it in a very easily explainable language, and also mentions the safety and, the difference between your typical CANDU reactor and, that you're dealing with much smaller temperatures, much less pressure, and how much safer and easier to manage these SMRs are. Okay, go ahead.
And just to add to that, you talked about the production centers. One of the informal conversations that came through was that when Alberta is ready for this, and when it happens, if it happens, there will be a need for production centers, and those production centers are typically going to be located adjacent to where the SMRs are. And so if an area has been approved for an SMR, they're ripe for the opportunity for the production center. So there's, in terms of economic development, there's a hand-in-hand association there. So it, like I say, if Alberta approves it, if it's, you listen to the jargon and it sounds like a when, not if, but I still think it's an if, because there has to be very, very thorough and extensive public consultation. But there's definitely an economic benefit to wherever these are going to be located.
Absolutely. Is there any further comments or discussion? Go ahead, Bert.
So just one comment, and that is just that just in the little bit of research I've done, and I'll stress a little bit, there's 3 or 4 different types of technology within SMRs. Some of them use a radioactive salt, some of them are a boiled water kind of a thing. But there's some great information on the Canadian Nuclear Safety Site and that kind of thing as well. But it is interesting around the modular conversation, because when you look at the US Navy and their submarines and their nuclear fleet overall, they've got a 70-year history now of using small modular reactors, floating them around all around the world on boats and making things happen, and that's just the way that it works, right? And so it does seem to many to be a logical next step to say, well, if we've had these nuclear reactors at sea for so long, it's kind of like using the diesel electric engine, within trains. It's like, well, if there's got to be some way to have some kind of a hybrid diesel electric that works well on other things too, right? So it is an incredibly interesting discussion for us to watch, and especially knowing that our energy needs continue to grow. There's opportunities, and we know the energy mix is changing. We've said that for years, so
Yeah.
it's just one more part of that, that's all.
Yeah, and that was the message from Brian Jean, was it, his analogy was bullets in a gun. He said this likely will become one of the bullets in the gun. I thought it was a curious choice of words, but
Indeed.
Something to watch.
Well, he does a lot of hunting, so, you know.
That being said, then I would entertain a motion to accept the Blue Skies discussion as information.
Yeah, I can make the motion that the committee accepts the Blue Sky discussion items as information.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Devin. Awesome. Then in moving on to information items, I would ask for a motion to accept information items as.
And the only highlight on this is just to say, the economy is doing good, inflation is dropping, next year looks like it's gonna be better than this year. There you go.
Right, well said.
so I can move that the committee accept the information items presented as information.
Awesome. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. And with that, we just have one motion left to address.
Audrey, you gonna make that one?
Yes,
Oh, my apologies.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know if Councillor Williams has made a motion yet tonight.
oh, there we
So that'd be
go.
the time to
Yeah,
get the guy
yes.
online.
I can make the motion to adjourn.
There you go, Deb.
Awesome. Thank you. All in favor?
You bet.
In favor.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Councillor Williams, for joining us. So it was greatly appreciated.
Thanks.
Thank you, Devin.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Have a good
Yeah, good night, Devin.
Take care.
Take care.
night.
Maybe give me a heads up.